They posted a $50 fine on my porch the morning Mom came home from the hospital. Said my security light violated code, same light I installed for her after the break-in. Merritt Dawes, here former auditor, Yorba Linda. The bulb still glowed warm above her chair. I didn't argue, just pulled out the Nightspan TM invoice with my name on it dated 2019. Ever watched someone write their own downfall? On official HOA letterhead, the yellow notice was already curling at the edges, caught in the lazy March breeze when I stepped out to check the mailbox. It clung to the wrought iron porch rail like a stubborn autumn leaf, the kind you hesitate to brush away because it's trying so hard to stay put. It read, in a typeface that pretended to be polite, "Notice of fine, unauthorized exterior lighting, $50 due within 10 business days." My eyes scanned the slip without blinking. I recognized the font. I recognized the phrasing. I'd written some of those notices once in another life from another desk. The porch lamp clicked on above me as the sun dipped past the roofs across the street. It was one of those amber LED bulbs, warm, quiet, steady. I'd installed it 4 years ago, same week Hattie came to live with me after her second stroke. That light had been our sentry ever since. Behind me, I heard her turn a page. She always read just before dinner, even if her eyes didn't track the words quite as fast these days. "Is it cold?" she asked without looking up. "Not yet," I said, folding the notice and slipping it into the inside pocket of my cardigan. I adjusted the porch lamp with 2 fingers, didn't need adjusting, just an excuse to touch something solid, then turned toward the sidewalk and made my way down the driveway. Yorba Linda was unusually quiet that evening, even for our cul-de-sac. Just the occasional rustle of hedges, the mechanical whir of a garage door half a block away. Most houses looked the same, now beige, neat, rule-abiding. At the entrance to our street, a battered metal sign stood wedged behind an overgrown juniper, protected by Nightspan. Security, 24/7, monitoring, sponsored by HOA. I stared at the sign for a long minute. The edges had dulled to gray, the corner bent from some long-past lawnmower incident. And yet, the little red diode in the upper right still blinked a tiny patient pulse. I pulled out my phone, thumbed through my banking app. It took a moment to load. The neighborhood Wi-Fi always slowed down after 6 p.m. I scrolled back through the recurring payments until I found it Nightspan Security Systems, $2,700, monthly auto debit, active. Still under my name, still debiting my account, every single month, for 4 years. I let the screen go dark and just stood there for a while. The mailbox across the street clanged shut, someone else's day being wrapped in metal and bills. I turned back toward the house. The porch light cast a cone of soft yellow over Hattie, who had fallen asleep in her chair with the book still open across her lap. Her hands were folded neatly, thumb resting on the margin like a bookmark made of flesh and age. I didn't say anything, just watched her for a while. The lamp's glow painted the wrinkles in her knuckles with a kind of dignity, like they were carved, not worn. The HOA notice was still in my pocket, already warming with my body heat. They had fined me for a light. The light I installed. The light I paid for. The light that made this corner of the street safer not only for my mother, but for the teenage boy next door who walked his dog at midnight, for the nurse 2 houses down who worked graveyard shifts, and yes, even for the HOA president herself, whose Range Rover sometimes cut the corner too fast and caught the beam. But I suppose the committee had reviewed their policies again. Or perhaps someone had complained anonymously. Or maybe they'd simply forgotten who held the contract. Back inside the kitchen, light hummed softly. I dropped the notice on the table unopened envelope beside it. My tea had gone cold. I reheated it out of habit more than desire. Some things taste better lukewarm when you're older. Bitterness mellows that way. As the microwave ticked down, I opened the cabinet above the fridge. Inside folders. Manila, unmarked and arranged by year. I found the one labeled 2019 HOA Nightspan Contract. Didn't open it. Didn't need to. Not yet. I heard Hattie stir outside and knew she'd want her pills soon. Walking back toward the porch, I paused at the mailbox, opened it reflexively, though I'd already checked. Empty. Still, the act of closing it made a sound, a soft metallic click. Clean. Final. I guess they forgot who pays the bill, I said out loud, maybe to myself, maybe to the neighborhood, maybe to no one. Then I turned off the porch light, just for a moment. Let them wonder. I couldn't sleep. It wasn't the wind or the creaking gutters this time. It was the quiet, the kind that settles around your shoulders when everyone else in the house and most of the town has given up for the night. The kind of quiet that leaves space for memories to speak. I padded softly to the kitchen barefoot on tile. The digital clock above the stove blinked 2:03 a.m. The microwave's hum had long faded, and so had the taste of the chamomile I'd brewed earlier. I poured what was left into a fresh mug anyway, gave it 30 seconds of heat, then carried it to my home office. The room had always been too big for one person. Once it had held 2 desks, mine and my wife's. She'd taken hers when she left, but I hadn't bothered rearranging anything. Just left her corner blank. Ghosts need space to breathe, too. I turned on the lamp, the one with the green banker's shade, and sank into the leather chair that groaned a little under my weight. The computer woke reluctantly, blinking its way back into duty like a clerk with one eye open. I opened my email archive, scrolled past years of HOA updates, tax filings, vendor reports. Most of it was Noise monthly reminders minutes. No one read attachments, no one opened. Then one subject line caught me: HOA lighting cost deferment, Feb 2019, from Harlan Uxbridge to Merritt Dawes. I clicked. Merritt, appreciate you stepping up. We'll defer the nightspan budget line since you're covering the install directly. We'll circle back after Q2 to formalize the ledger entry. Appreciate the discretion. H. I remembered the exchange, though I hadn't thought about Harlan in months. He'd been the kind of man who looked like he'd been born with a ledger in one hand and a garden hose in the other. Diligent, honest, a little too fond of red wine at block parties. I opened the folder labeled 2019, HOA, Contracts. There it was, Nightspan, Security, Yorba Linda, Dawes, PDF, my name. My address. The full contract amount, $8,510 up front, then $237 per month beginning April 2019. All auto-billed. No reimbursement, no opt-out. I clicked open the banking summary from 2020, 2021, 2022. All the same, each month without fail, Nightspan Inc. $237,000. Auto-pay. Yet, when I flipped through the scanned HOA budgets from those same years, PDFs copied from community newsletters, the security line remained empty. Vacant. Like the board had quietly forgotten who kept their sidewalks lit. I sat back. The leather chair gave again, sighing with me. There's a kind of fury that doesn't raise its voice, the kind that opens folders. I took a deep breath and opened a blank email, addressed to winona.clegg@westpointhOA.org. Subject: clarification on exterior lighting charges. Dear Ms. Clegg, I hope this message finds you well. I received a fine today regarding unauthorized lighting at my residence. I'd like to clarify that the lighting in question is part of the Nightspan system, which, per the 2019 agreement with then-Chair Mr. Uxbridge, I installed and have continued to finance personally. I've attached the original contract and relevant records for your review. Perhaps we should clarify ownership of this system. Best regards, Merritt Dawes. I read it twice. Added nothing. Removed nothing. Then I hit print. The machine hummed and clicked behind me. Paper warmed as it slid into the tray. I didn't staple it, just held it flat on the desk, letting my fingers rest along the edge. I attached the PDF to the email, clicked send, and leaned back. Outside, an owl called once from somewhere beyond the sycamores, the kind of sound that doesn't need a response. I watched the inbox for a few seconds. Nothing came. No, thank you for your inquiry. No auto-reply. Just the usual digital silence that follows a move too quiet to track but too solid to ignore. Let's see who blinks first, I said under my breath. Then I turned off the desk lamp. The printer light still glowed faint green like it was keeping watch. "Wait," LaRue said, tapping her iPad with a neatly trimmed nail. "Did they seriously fail to disclose this?" She hadn't even finished her espresso. The municipal cafe inside the Anaheim Civic Library was one of her favorite haunts, a half-courtroom, half-coffee shop vibe, where no one spoke above a whisper and half the clientele carried court exhibits in reusable Trader Joe's bags. The tables were worn solid oak. The barista knew her by drink not named triple espresso, no sugar, always in a ceramic cup. I had my black coffee in a to-go cup. It cooled quickly. I wasn't in a hurry. LaRue Nance, my sister-in-law by marriage and force of personality, had a habit of reading documents like cross-examinations. Eyes moving line by line, no wasted motion, as if each paragraph were a suspect trying to lie. "Start at section 12. I'd told her, sliding the scanned HOA charter across the table. Specifically, look at any reference to financial disclosure obligations. She had already scrolled past it and scrolled back. Clause 12.2 blinked softly on the glass. Any ongoing financial contribution exceeding $1,000 annually from an external party shall be disclosed to all residents in quarterly newsletters and reflected in HOA meeting minutes. Failure to disclose shall nullify HOA protection under Article 5. LaRue lifted an eyebrow. It was an expression she inherited from her mother. Part skepticism, part restraint, all blade. Clause 12.2. She repeated, voice low. "That's your smoking gun." I nodded once. I hadn't come looking for a gun, but I wasn't about to leave it lying there. "They never listed your name." She continued scrolling through the attached 2020-2023 newsletters I'd forwarded. No mention. Not even a thank you footnote. "And yet you've been paying every month since 2009. I didn't answer. Just sipped the coffee." Bitter thin. She read on. "Article 5 is indemnity," she muttered mostly to herself, "meaning if this goes to court, they lose protection if Clause 12.2 wasn't followed." She looked up. "This isn't just sloppy merit. It's borderline fraudulent." The iPad screen glowed between us like a small courtroom bench. She used the stylus to circle the last line. Her motion was calm, precise. "Shall nullify HOA protection." "It's almost funny," she added. "They're enforcing a $50 fine while sitting on a technical exposure the size of a semi-truck." I'd seen that look in her before, once during a dispute over a school tax fund. Another time when her neighbor's wall encroached 6 inches into her side yard and she'd proved it using a drone, a copy of the county zoning map, and a ruler. LaRue didn't pick fights. She invited them to show their math. I leaned back in my chair. The laminate ceiling tiles hummed with fluorescent resignation. A couple sat nearby with laptops and headphones whispering about a small claims case. A judge retired, if I had to guess, stirred milk into her tea 3 tables down. "I'm not looking to sue them," I said finally. "Didn't say you should. Or start a war. That's good," she said, "because you're already in one." She pulled the stylus cap off with her teeth chewed at once, then set it aside. "You want to stay quiet? Quiet or quiet lethal?" I almost smiled. She slid the iPad across the table. Clause 12.2 stared back at me in yellow highlight. It looked like it had always been glowing, just waiting for someone to notice. "If you wanted to go nuclear," LaRue said, her voice soft but sharp. I could write the first draft tonight. The printer behind the counter churned out someone's court packet. The scent of burnt ink and espresso mingled in the air. I didn't touch the iPad. I just looked at the line again. "Failure to disclose shall nullify protection." Not a threat, not a loophole, just a line. Sitting there, waiting to be read. I looked at my sister-in-law. "I'll let you know," I said. She smiled, not kindly but with precision. "You will." The HOA community room buzzed like a PTA meeting about to go off script. Foldable chairs creaked as residents shifted, coughed, whispered into callers. Someone's water bottle hit the floor and rolled 2 rows up before a tennis shoe stopped it. I sat quietly in the back, not hidden, just not participating. Yet. The overhead projector hummed above like a tired wasp. Its light threw blurred shadows against a whiteboard with faint marker stains from a meeting long past. Someone had tried to erase the phrase fence color variance, but ghost letters lingered. Winona Clegg stood at the front in a salmon-colored blazer. Her voice was clipped but professional, her old principal tone. She didn't need a microphone in a room this small. The PowerPoint behind her displayed the HOA's 2023 budget bullet points, bar graphs, and carefully chosen vagueness. And under facilities maintenance, we've allocated $14,200 for common area upkeep. Landscaping, sprinkler calibration, trash enclosure, upgrades. The usual suspects. I watched the line that wasn't their security. Not even a euphemism. Not even a placeholder. My folder sat closed on my lap. Neat, patient. Harlan Uxbridge sat 3 rows ahead, gray hair now full white. He scribbled something on a notepad, then leaned over to whisper to his wife, who frowned. Someone raised a hand, Carolyn from the house on the corner. Always polite, always dressed like she had just left a gallery opening. "Excuse me," she said. "What about the nightspan lights? Are those covered in facilities?" Winona hesitated barely, but it was there. Her thumb flicked her presentation remote, skipped to the next slide a little too fast. "Security lighting," she said, "is currently operational through private support. That's being evaluated in the next cycle." Carolyn blinked. "But we rely on those lights. They're on every night." "Yes," Winona replied. "And we're grateful for the legacy support system, which we're in the process of integrating more formally." She moved to the next slide. Line item, community events, $3,400. Someone in the front row sighed audibly. I glanced down at the folder on my lap. Tan, clean, slightly worn at the edges. Inside my contract with Nightspan. Banking statements, PDFs of the HOA charter, Harlan's 2019 email, and newly added LaRue's highlighted Clause 12.2 printed in color. I didn't open it. Not yet. Across the aisle, Winona continued, "And as we look toward Q3, we're proposing a revision to." Her voice trailed slightly when she glanced at me. She knew, or at least suspected. I hadn't replied to her follow-up clarification email last week. The one that danced around the issue with words like misunderstanding and appreciation for your continued involvement. The kind of message that uses 10 words where one truth would sting. She flicked her slide again. Another graph. Another stack of blue bars climbing toward nothing. I heard a chair shift mine. I hadn't meant to move, but I had. The folder came open in my lap with a quiet rustle. Not dramatic. Not even audible beyond the first 2 rows. But Winona noticed. Her fingers clicked the slide remote once, then twice. The screen flashed between charts. She paused, blinked, and then silence. It lasted 3 seconds, maybe 4, but in a room full of affluent Californians, 4 seconds of dead air in a budget meeting is an eternity. I stood up, slowly. The foldable chair made no protest. I tucked the folder under one arm. Winona's lips pressed into a line. "If I may," I said, voice low but clear, "I'd like to clarify something before we close." Several heads turned. Even Harlan stopped writing. No one spoke. Not yet. "Mr. Dawes," Winona said from the front of the room, her hand still clutching the presentation remote. "You had something to add?" I nodded. "Yes," I said calmly. "Just one small disclosure." There was a pause, tight humming. The projector behind her still glowed the same bar chart frozen on the screen. Its pale blue columns outlined landscaping maintenance and community events. The word security was still conspicuously absent. I stepped forward, my folder tucked firmly under one arm. The motion was unhurried. The air in the room had shifted like pressure before a thunderclap. I placed the folder on the center table. No announcement, no flourish. Then I opened it. First, the Nightspan TM contract. I laid it flat. My name, address, the HOA's designation, the installation date in 2019. Second, banking statements, highlighted entries month after month, line after line, Nightspan Inc. $237,000. Auto pay. Third, a printed email from Harlan Uxbridge dated February 2019. We'll defer the security line since you're covering it. Thanks again, Merritt. I heard the rustle of someone adjusting in their seat. Fourth, the HOA charter opened to Clause 12.2. I didn't speak yet, but LaRue did. From 3 rows back she stood. Not hurriedly, not theatrically, just deliberately. Her voice rang out clean and unshaken. Any ongoing financial contribution exceeding $1,000 annually from an external party shall be disclosed to all residents in quarterly newsletters and reflected in HOA meeting minutes. Failure to disclose shall nullify HOA protection under Article 5. Clause 12.2, read aloud like a court stenographer dropping the gavel. She sat. That was all she said. A silence followed longer than any I'd yet seen in this room. Someone coughed. A pen dropped. Winona's lips parted slightly, but no sound came. I glanced at her, then turned toward the room. All chairs had shifted subtly toward the center table. My folder sat open calm in the overhead light. "You find me," I began. Voice even for installing a light. That same light and the ones at every corner of this cul-de-sac are powered by a contract I've personally funded for 4 years. More silence. But now I could feel the murmurs forming behind it. I gestured to the documents. This was not hidden. It was just never acknowledged. A few heads turned toward Winona. She swallowed visibly. "Mr. Dawes, I'm sure there's been some miscommunication. We've been reviewing the you omitted financial disclosures from 3 consecutive years," LaRue said from her chair. I counted. Murmurs now. Someone whispered Clause 12 to a neighbor. I closed the folder slowly. "You fined me for lighting I paid for," I said, "and forgot I protected all of you." That landed. Not loud, not cruel, but undeniable. It was the kind of sentence that doesn't get argued, it gets remembered. I stepped back. The tension held brittle and sharp. Then, from the front row, a voice I hadn't heard yet. "I can confirm everything Mr. Dawes just said, Harlan Uxbridge said." His voice was gravel now, older, but still grounded. "I was chair at the time. He paid. We all benefited." All eyes turned toward him. Winona's hands dropped to her sides. The projector clicked into screensaver mode, floating colors drifting across the whiteboard like retreating echoes. No one applauded. No one needed to. The folder was still there, open inert, but impossible to ignore. By morning, the Nightspan TM plaque was back. Same brushed aluminum. Same Helvetica font, same corner screws holding it to the small brick pillar near the cul-de-sac entrance, but this time it had my name on it. Sponsored by Merritt Dawes, 2019 to present. No one knocked, no one emailed, it simply appeared. I stood there for a long moment, hands in my jacket pockets. The plaque caught the light just enough to reflect a gold sheen, false but convincing. Someone had wiped it clean. Carefully. I didn't smile. The sidewalk behind me stirred as early walkers passed dogs and sweaters' coffee mugs clutched like anchors. A few neighbors offered quick glances. Most looked away. The bulletin board near the clubhouse displayed something new. A single sheet of paper behind a plastic sleeve. Emergency Transparency Committee formation. Interested residents inquire within. It was printed in 14-point Cambria, underscored twice. I walked home in silence. Later that afternoon, I received 6 emails, forwarded threads mostly circulated with subject lines like "Last Night's Disaster" and "HOA Trust Issues." One included a photo someone had snapped of LaRue reading Clause 12.2, annotated "Real Lawyer Energy." Winona had not responded to my follow-up email. She didn't have to. By dusk, word spread that the HOA board held a closed-door meeting. No press release, no Zoom. Link, just a quiet note on the doorboard in executive session. Inside, they debated. Outside, the air felt like a held breath. That evening, a cream-colored envelope was slipped under my door. No return address, no handwriting on the outside. Inside, a small card. "You deserve better than $50. No signature. I left it on the kitchen counter next to the water bill. The next day a knock came, not the kind that asked for anything. Just 3 polite taps. I opened the door to Harlan. He wore the same windbreaker from the meeting. His eyes were steady. "She's stepping back," he said. "Winona. Citing stress. The board wants you to take interim finance." He didn't frame it as a request. "I'd rather not," I said. "But thank you." Harlan nodded. "Then, may I ask who you'd suggest?" "A rotation," I replied. 5 residents. Term limited. No board overlap. He raised one eyebrow. "You sure you don't want the chair?" "I'm sure," I said. The door stayed open, but neither of us moved to fill the space with small talk. After a while, he left. Later that week, a small group gathered at the community entrance. Someone had placed flowers. Sunflowers oddly at the base of the Nightspan TM sign. Beneath it, a second plaque had been added bolted directly into the pillar. Sponsored by Merritt Dawes 2019 to 2023. Thank you. Simple. Clear. Permanent. I stood near the back of the group. Most people didn't notice me. Those who did gave a quiet nod like they'd heard something about me but weren't sure if it was true. LaRue didn't attend. She'd done her part. A neighbor with a clipboard asked if I'd consider giving a few words. I declined. On the walk home, I passed the plaque again. My name stared back, etched, not printed, not removable. "I didn't ask for that," I said aloud. No one heard. Or maybe they had and knew better than to answer. The folding chairs were gone. In their place, a circle of mismatched office seats, some kitchen stools, and 2 collapsible camping chairs. The HOA community room looked less like a tribunal, more like an overgrown book club. No projector tonight, no podium, no charts, just people, and coffee, and a stack of handouts printed on soft green paper. A new voice opened the meeting, younger bearded, but with eyes that didn't flicker. His name was Kai, lived over on Elderberry. I remembered him waving once while trimming his hedges and sandals. "Let's fix this," he said, nodding to the circle. "Together." No one clapped, but no one scoffed either. I sat 2 rows back. Well, rows weren't really rows anymore, just proximity. I held a handout on my lap, proposed transparent budgeting framework. Dawes, Nance model. The font was mine. The legal phrasing was LaRue's. The structure, that was the neighborhood's to test. Kai went on, "We've divided next quarter's expenses into 4 open categories. Vendors will be posted online. Questions can be raised anonymously." A retired teacher from Cedar Street spoke up. "Who does the review?" Kai nodded. "Rotating triad. 1 board member, 1 volunteer resident, and 1 external advisor." A murmur. But this time, interest, not opposition. Someone passed around a sign-up sheet on bright blue paper. Another set of hands distributed yellow pamphlets upcoming landscaping bids. Even the pages had a kind of rhythm, now color-coded, easy to read. Merritt Dawes, me didn't speak, not at first. A retired Army nurse from Juniper suggested we ditch the old security vendor for a cheaper option. Someone else countered that legacy continuity had value. The room didn't erupt. It considered. LaRue had reviewed every clause in the HOA charter with me 2 weeks earlier. Now she sat quietly near the side table, arms crossed, saying nothing. It was Kai's room now, and maybe that was the point. A few moments before adjournment, Harlan stepped forward with an envelope. He handed it to Kai, who read it silently, then held it up. "A resignation letter," he said, "from Winona Clegg." Kai cleared his throat and read, "To the members of the HOA, I am stepping down effective immediately. I want to extend thanks to Merritt Dawes for reminding us what we forgot. Governance is not a crown, it's a compass. Winona C." The room exhaled, not in victory, but in relief. Someone passed around biscotti. I declined. I stayed behind a few minutes after the meeting ended, sipping lukewarm coffee. Kai packed up slowly like he didn't want the spell to break. "You did more than you had to," he said, not looking at me. "Only just enough," I replied. At home, Hattie sat on the porch flipping through a gardening magazine with a bent corner. The porch lamp glowed steady above her, its light gentle and unchanged. She didn't look up at first. Then, after a page turn, she said, "That board might have saved the neighborhood." I sat beside her. Maybe I said. Or maybe it just remembered it was one. 6 months later, the new Nightspan TM units still glowed. They didn't buzz anymore. Someone must have upgraded the transformers. The light was warmer too, less clinical. Less prison floodlight, more front porch amber, a different kind of protection. The one by our magnolia tree had been replaced entirely. Smaller housing, bronze casing, low-profile mount. I hadn't asked. The October breeze had returned, brushing through Yorba Linda like a careful broom. Most of the residents now left their porch lights on later into the evening. No memo had asked them to. On our refrigerator door, one magnet held a single folded paper, an old invoice from Nightspan TM. Not unpaid, just unfiled. It stayed there like a calendar for something that didn't require counting. I opened the screen door. It creaked slightly as if reminding me it still had character. Hattie sat bundled in her quilted chair, reading a dog-eared copy of Gardens West. She didn't speak as I stepped outside, just tilted the magazine slightly so the porch lamp wouldn't glare against the glossy page. From down the street, the soft rhythm of bike wheels approached rubber treads rolling over uneven sidewalk seams. A boy, 9, maybe 10, steered his way past the fence line. A flash of navy hoodie, a glint of silver spokes. As he passed, he called out without stopping. "Hey, my dad says your light kept his car from getting robbed." I nodded. Didn't wave, didn't speak. Sometimes dignity needs no reply. The boy turned the corner. A breeze followed him. Back inside, I picked up a small box from the hall table. Inside a motion sensor fixture, powder-coated bronze low wattage, the kind that didn't draw attention unless you knew what to look for. I stepped off the porch down the small walkway and around the magnolia. The lawn had finally recovered from the summer's dryness. The patch by the roots was soft willing. I worked quietly. No one watched. Harlan might have been inside. LaRue had long since moved on to her next city budget case. Kai was probably leading another citizens' triad somewhere, clipboard in hand. I mounted the new fixture under the lower branch. It clicked into place like it belonged there all along. Then I pulled a small bronze plate from my pocket. 4 words. Engraved. No embellishments. Hattie's light protected by contribution. No one asked what it meant. No one needed to. Back on the porch, Hattie had dozed off slightly. Her magazine rested on her lap, page folded at Autumn Hydrangea Replanting. I flicked the new light on. It hummed faintly, lower than a whisper, steadier than a heartbeat. The circle of glow reached the sidewalk, a soft triangle of amber across concrete. I sat beside her. The street settled into stillness. Cars passed occasionally, but slower now. People noticed things, more signs, light posts, porch chairs. Some changes don't announce themselves. Some just shine. As the dusk settled that October evening, I watched the new fixture hum beneath our magnolia, steady, soft, and mine this time. It didn't chase shadows. It simply held space where doubt once lived. Funny how justice, when quiet, leaves the deepest echo. I didn't win a war. I lit a path. And sometimes that's enough. Because fairness isn't loud. It's the porch lamp that stays on when no one asks it to. Has life ever handed you a second chance wrapped in silence, not applause? Feel free to share your story below, or just leave the light on a little longer.